everybody, we're going to start the agenda review for August 5th, 2015. We have ordinances on second reading. 501, ordinance to amend supplement revised general ordinance of the city of Brunswick, chapter 10, vehicles and traffic, schedule 39, parking zones for handicapped persons. Delete 2 parking zones for handicapped persons at 304 Redmond Street, 28A Line Street, add 1 parking zone for handicapped person at 304 Redmond Street. 502, ordinance to amend supplement revised general ordinance of the city of Brunswick, Title 10, vehicles and traffic, chapter 10.12, traffic control regulations, section 10.12.210, schedule 21, mid-block crosswalks, and 3 crosswalks at Seminary Place. 503, ordinance to amend supplement to revise general ordinance of the city of Brunswick, Title 10, vehicles and traffic, chapter 10.12, traffic control regulations, section 10.12.020, schedule 4, one-way streets. Add Rutgers Street as a one-way street. 504.
Council President, if I could just interrupt. On that one, I understand that our city engineer is recommending that the ordinance be tabled before the time.
503, table.
Yes, we'll move that at the time of the regular meeting.
Thank you. 504, ordinance to amend supplement to revise general ordinance of the city of Brunswick, Title 12, street sidewalks in public places, chapter 12.12, street and sidewalk obstructions, long-term closure of streets schedule. 505-1 to amend 071505, approve resolution to amend ordinance 071505 on second reading. Ordinance to amend supplement to revise general ordinance of the city of Brunswick, Title 10, vehicles and traffic, parking meter rates. Ordinances on first reading. 501, ordinance to amend supplement to revise general ordinance of the city of Brunswick, Title 10, vehicles and traffic. Amend various schedules in the city ordinances. Section 10.12.010, Schedule 2, trucks over 4 tons excluded. Section 10.12.020, Schedule 4, one-way streets. Section 10.12.030, Schedule 5, through streets. Section 10.12.004, Schedule 6, stop intersection. Section 10.12.110, Schedule 13, left turn prohibitions. Schedule 10.16.020, Schedule 24, no parking at any time. Schedule 10, 16, 210, Schedule 38, time limit parking. Resolutions. 501, approve agenda amendments. 502, approve payroll. 503, authorize refund for redeemed tax sales certificates. 504, approve ABC liquor license renewal. 505, approve renewal license with conditions for 2015-16 liquor license for Kelly's Corner Incorporated, trading as Kelly's Corner, 75 Morrell Street. Liquor license number 1214-33-028-006. 506, authorize application, execution, and acceptance of grant with Middlesex County for FY 2016, July 1st, 2015, and June 30th, 2016. New Brunswick Substance Abuse Prevention. Cash match, $11,009. Grant, $44,034. 507, approve request for street closing, requested by Iguana Kadakia. Location, George Street, New Street, and Livingston Avenue. For Barack, a religious ceremony for a wedding with a procession with a horse led by a drummer. Date, Saturday, August 29, 2015. Time, 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Police extra duty. 508, approve request for use of city property, requested by the Brunswick Recreation, City Market, and the Round River Festival Committee. Location is Boyd Park. Annual Round River Festival. Date is Sunday, September 27, 2015, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. 509, approve amendment of resolution R 071510, reason to pay additional legal fees in the amount of $1,309. Mitzner. Police Officer Andrew Weiss in the matter of Rodriguez versus Police Officer Andrew Weiss from $14,073.50 to $15,382.50. 510, approve request for use of city property requested by New Brunswick Soccer League Incorporated, location Boyd Park for Mexican Independence Day, Sunday, September 13, 2015, time 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Police extra duty. 511.
Mr. Regan, I'm sorry, but I just interrupted. The request from the Brunswick Soccer League has been revised in a couple of ways. First, they this morning asked to have their request for fireworks to be withdrawn. So the approval has been drawn up to reflect that. And then secondly, on our recommendation, we are not going to allow a mechanical bull down at the celebration. We just think it's a liability issue. They've agreed to that. Mood and music.
Oh,
say so. 511, approved request for street closing requested by Rutgers Police Department, location, one way on Seminary Place from College Avenue heading east to George Street. For moving day for Rutgers University honor students, Thursday, August 27, 2015, from 6 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Police extra duty. 512, approved request for street closing requested by Rutgers Police Department. Location, make one way on College Avenue between Huntington Street and Bishop Place, heading south on College Avenue towards Huntington Street. For moving day for Rutgers University first year students. Date is Saturday, August 29, 2015. Time is 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Police extra duty. 513, approved relaxation of the city noise ordinance requested by William Blanchard Company on behalf of Valiant Power Group. Place a crane on Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital property to lift HVAC equipment to the roof of the south building. Dates are Saturday, August 15, 2015, and August 22nd, 2015. Alternate dates, August 29th, September 5th, 2015. Time is 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 514, approved resolution to authorize refund of escrow to Blair Park Services LLC, the amount of $1,050. 515, approved amendment of resolution R-021311, raising additional amount of $20,000 to cover costs of parts and repairs with Northium Corporation. Northium, for medium heavy equipment parts and repair services with the Department of Public Works, not to exceed $20,000. Approve this amendment will not constitute an increase of 20% or more of the original contract. 516, authorize tax collector to transfer overpayments on several tax and utility accounts. 517, authorize renewal of lease agreement with Spectrum Lease for FCC license for remote radio meter readers for the water utility. 518, authorize application, acceptance, and execution of grant for 2015 for 2015 drive shoulder or get pulled over Labor Day. 519, authorize purchase by water utility distribution division under state contract A 88758-T 2101 from Chaz A. Winter, doing business as Winter Ford, for one 2016 Ford pickup truck, not to exceed $25,014. 520, approved number resolution R-071518, reason to pay additional legal fees in the amount of $1,071 to Mixer and Mixer. Police Officer Brad Rodell in the matter of Deloche versus Brad Rodell, from $27,8375 to $28,154.75. 521, approved fiber optic cable agreement and right of way use agreement requested by AT&T Corporation, reason installation of fiber optic cable. The location is 12 Van Dyke Avenue. 522, approved request for use of city sidewalk request by Council Vice President Glenn Fleming, location 259 George Street to right on Remsen Avenue, right on Sanford Street to Joyce Gilmore Avenue, Martin Luther King Corner, rolling closed. March followed by commemoration of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. Date, Sunday, August 23, 2015. Rain date, Sunday, September 6, 2015. Time is 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. 523, approved request for use of city property, requested by Faith Hope Baptist Church. Location, Feaston Park, regular church worship service, singing, dancing, and preaching. Date, Saturday, September 19, 2015. Rain date, Saturday, September 26, 2015. Time is 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. 524, authorized purchase by Police Department under state contract A 77560-M003, software license and related services from Shy International Corp. for software license SAS POS Enterprise schedule software not to exceed $13,838.40. 525, approved order contract with Baker & Taylor Incorporated for books purchased from a wholesale distributor for the public library, specification number 448-15 RFP, not to exceed $49,000. Term is 12-month period commencing August 12, 2015 and ending August 5, 2016. Fair and open. 526, approved amendment resolution R-061507, reason to pay additional legal fees in the amount of $1,195. Lawrence Bitterman Esquire for Police Officer Daniel Mazan in the matter of Deloche Senior Barry versus City of Brunswick from $20,468 to $21,663. 527, authorized purchase by the Police Department under state contract A 839-24-HT-0109, radio communication equipment and accessories from Zetron Incorporated for Zetron Radio Patrol Interface Upgrade, not to exceed $46,928. 528, authorized application, acceptance, and execution of grant with County of Middlesex Officer of Aging and Disabled Services for 2016 Information and Assistance Senior Citizen Resource Center, amount to be received $5,000. 529, authorized application, acceptance, and execution of grant with County Middlesex Office of Aging and Disabled Services, 2016 grade. Congratulate, no?
Congratulate.
Congregating Wheels Senior Citizen Resource Center, amount to be received, $10,000. 530, authorized purchase of Division of Fire Progression Under State Contract A 83013-D 2007 from Buyer Ford for one 2016 Ford Explorer, not to exceed $25,203. 531, approve award of contract with Jesco Incorporated, Campbell Freightliner LLC, Warship Corporation for truck and equipment replacement parts. 12-month period commencing August 6, 2015 and ending August 5, 2016. Specification number 43815P, not to exceed $12,000. Authorization to rebid for items for which no bids were submitted under the specification. 532, approve amendment resolution R 061586. Reason to pay additional legal fees in the amount of $2,788 to Lawrence Goodman Esquire for Detective Christopher Borhauer in the matter of Rodriguez for the city of New Brunswick from $14,458.50 to $17,246.50. 533, approve request for use of city property requested by Rutgers Project Sunshine, location Blue Road Park, Pavilion and Track. 5K run and walk fundraiser to benefit PSEG Children's Specialized Hospital, Bristol Myers Squibb Children's Hospital, and Robert E. Johnson University Hospital. The Children's Hospital at St. Peter's University Hospital and Sloan County Cancer Research Center. Date, Saturday, October 3rd, 2015, time 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. 534, approve the award of contract with Rover Enterprises Incorporated, doing business as Rover Bus Sales for one 8-passenger vehicle with wheelchair lift and 2 wheelchair stations for division of dollar line, specification number 433-15B, not to exceed $56,515. 535, authorized purchase by division of dial line under state contract numbers A 83927-T0109 and A 83904/T0109, radio communication equipment and accessories. The Bold Type Business Machine, doing business as GTBM for one, mobile radio and accessories, not to exceed $982.39. 536, approve award of contract with Wireless Electronics Incorporated, doing business as Wireless Communication and Electronics for radio maintenance for the fire department. 12-month period commencing August 6, 2015 and ending August 5, 2016, which can be extended on a yearly basis for up to 2 years to additional years. Specification number 447-15P, not to exceed $10,500. 537, authorized purchase by police department under state contract A 83909/T0109, radio communication equipment and accessories for Motorola Solutions Incorporated for Motorola radio upgrades, not to exceed $530,640.81. 538, approve award of contract with Black Rock Enterprise LLC for Andy Street Storm Sewer improvement. Specification number 818-15, not to exceed $201,771. 539, approve amendment of resolution R111-444, creating supplemental services for design and construction administration services for the Memorial Stadium grandstand, exterior improvements, with Suburban Consulting Engineers Incorporated for Memorial Stadium turf field and track improvements project. Specification number 86514 RFP, not to exceed $71,000. 540, approved appointment of counsel Benedict and Walton for representation of Detective Grant Gregus in the matter of Derek Dietrich Stallings versus City of New Brunswick, not to exceed $5,000. 541, approved amendment resolution R 071520, authorize additional services for Siphon Design, Hatchmont McDonald LLC for 2015 miscellaneous supplemental engineering services. Specification number 86814 RFP, not to exceed $5,130. Approval of this change order will not constitute an increase of 20% or more of the amount of the original contract. 542, approve amendment resolution R 031573, change order number 1, credit with Land Tech Group Incorporated for Memorial Stadium turf field and track improvement. Specification number 877-15. The credit is $10,853.25. Approval of this change order will not constitute an increase of 20% or more of the original contract. 543, approve amendment of resolutions R 041476, reason preparation, attendance, and testimony regarding the appraisal of partial taking of right-of-way property located at 67 Reservoir Avenue next to the Recreation Park project with ERB valuation and consulting services for supplemental appraisal services The amount is $950. Approval of this change order will not constitute an increase of 20% more of the original contract. 544, approve payment for emergency procurement engineering department for sewer line repair at 175 Handy Street with Daffy Contractors Corporation, not to exceed $10,658, purchase order number D80801. 545, approve award of contract with DGL Raptopolos Incorporated, doing business as Mako Collision Repair and Auto Painting for automotive body repairs for the police department. Term is 12-month period, commencing August 6, 2015, and ending August 5, 2016. Rebid specification number 437-15PR, not to exceed $30,000. 546, approved Chapter 159 budget insert for State of New Jersey Department of Agriculture for 2015 summer nutrition program. The amount is $406,540.03. 547, approval of license with conditions for 2015-2016 liquor license for La Famosa Incorporated, trading as La Famosa, liquor license number 1214-33-045003. 548, approve off-premise raffle merchandise at Stress Factory, 90 Church Street for Christina S. Walsh Breast Cancer Foundation. Date is October 18, 2015. Go more? Sure, could fit any more in? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Escobar.
Here.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Here.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Present.
Council President Egan.
Here. Please be advised that the notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been complied with and satisfied with that the annual notice, which gave sufficient notice of the time and place and conduct of all public meetings of the municipal council of the city of New Brunswick, has been filed with the city clerk, has been placed on an appropriate bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall in Brunswick, New Jersey, and has been transmitted to the official newspaper of the city of New Brunswick, namely the Home News and Tribune. Stand for pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a moment of silence for our men and women serving in our armed forces and for our men and women serving in the armed forces who lost their lives in battle. Thank you. We have minutes from July 1st, 2015. Can I get a motion on the minutes?
Second.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar.
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Aye.
Council President Egan.
Yes. We have ordinances on second reading. 501, ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinance of the city of New Brunswick, chapter 10, vehicles and traffic, schedule 39, parking zones for handicapped persons. There will be 2 parking zones for handicapped persons at 304 Redmond Street and 28 Line Street, and 1 parking zone for handicapped person at 304 Redmond Street. Does anybody from the public like to comment on this particular ordinance? Seeing none?
Move the ordinance. Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar.
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Aye.
Council President Egan.
Yes. We have 502, an ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinance of the city of New Brunswick, Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 1012, Traffic Control Regulations, Section 1012-210, Schedule 21, mid-block crosswalks, and 3 crosswalks at Seminary Place. Would anybody from the public like to comment on that particular ordinance? Please step up to the microphone.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Charles Cradaville, New Brunswick. Can you just tell me what Seminary Place is going to look like when all this is done? Is it going to be a one-way again, or is it going to continue to be a two-way? And is there going to be parking on the street?
Mr. Goulden?
Yes, it will be returned to one way the way it was before construction started on the seminary project and on the Honors College project. There will be parking put back on Seminary Place, and these crosswalks will be are being provided for the safety of the students.
Okay, and so I presume that the parking meters won't interfere with the crosswalks. There'll be gaps where you can't park to allow for the crosswalks.
That's correct. They have to be at least 5 feet away from the crosswalk.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on that particular ordinance? Seeing none?
Motion.
Second.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar.
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Aye.
Council President Egan.
Yes. 503 is being tabled.
Mr. Council President.
Yes.
I need a motion to table that ordinance indefinitely in
Okay.
order to, which in effect will kill the ordinance.
Second, making a motion to table that indefinitely, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar.
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Aye.
Council President Egan.
Yes. We have ordinance 504, in order to amend supplement revised general ordinance of the city of New Brunswick, Title 12, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places, Chapter 12.12, Street and Sidewalk Obstructions, Long-Term Closure of Streets Schedule. Would anybody from the public like to comment on this particular ordinance? Seeing none?
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar.
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Aye.
Council President Egan.
Yes. We have R0-07, 1505-1, to amend to 0-071505. Approve resolution to amend ordinance 071505 on second reading. The ordinance to amend the supplemental revised general ordinance of the city of New Brunswick. Title 10, Vehicles and Traffic, Parking Meter Rates. Would anybody left from the public like to comment on this particular ordinance?
The resolution is to adopt a resolution which amends the ordinance, and then I'd like to ask the council to entertain a motion to carry the ordinance on second reading to the 19th meeting.
Okay.
So we're not going to adopt the full ordinance, you're just going to adopt this particular resolution which amends a portion
Okay.
of the ordinance.
So we hear public comment on it?
On the resolution, yes.
Yes. On the so you have to wait till the resolutions, or can we do it now?
So you can do it, you should do it now.
Mr. Crowell?
Yes, sir. Charles Prattville, New Brunswick. Can I ask why we have to increase the rates at the parking meters yet again? This is the second year in a row.
While we're increasing the parking meters, Mr. Karen here? Yeah, Mr. Karen, you want to speak on that?
Oh, it's not the second year in a row, it's been about 2.5, 3 years ago that we increased the rates. And then it's just, you know, these rates are normal rates throughout the state of New Jersey, and it's just, you know, something that we feel we should do.
Can you tell me cities in New Jersey that charge $1.50 an hour for parking?
Do you have any information on that?
I don't recall the exact cities, I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, and this is rather complicated, I see. The original ordinance has a bunch of streets where the parking is going to be limited to 8 hours, and the rate of the parking would increase every hour after the second hour. So it's my understanding the first 2 hours would be $3. The third hour is going to be $2, so then you're at $5. Fourth hour is $3, so now you're $8. Fifth hour is $4, that's $12 to park for 5 hours. And then 5, 6, and 7, it's going to be almost $30 to park for 8 hours. And I know Mr. Karen explained this at the Parking Authority Board meeting, but I'd just like some clarity on exactly why they're switching to this strategy of, it's called progressive pricing, Mr. Karen told me. And I noticed in the resolution there's a bunch of other streets where they're not doing progressive pricing. This is Jones Avenue, Huntington Street, Handy Street, all the ones in the resolution don't have the progressive pricing, and all the ones in the original ordinance do. Can you tell me why some are and some aren't?
You have a comment?
I would.
Sure.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Prattville, we're trying to address the problems of people staying in parking spaces in high-demand areas. And so I think the Parking Authority has done an excellent job at identifying the areas where we have this issue and let the other areas where there hasn't been an issue of long-term parking at metered spaces stay as a traditional parking rate. This is, if you will, a pilot, and we'll see how it works. It's been effective in other areas, and so we think it's time to be modern and current in terms of our parking policies to reflect parking demand in the city of New Brunswick. Merchants have expressed concern about these issues, and we want a vibrant downtown. I think I've heard you use that term many times, and we think this supports that goal.
Okay, and I can see where you're coming from. I do notice that a lot of, for instance, construction workers park in the spots. Other workers probably go to work for a long shift, park in the spots. But at the end of the day, this won't stop them from coming and feeding the meter, will it? I mean, if you've got coins in your pocket, you're nearby, you could go feed the meter, and the progressive pricing is not going to hurt you at all, right?
Why wouldn't it?
That's not gonna hurt, you're gonna pay more money.
Well, no, not if you're using coins. The meter's not going to know that it's your 7th hour there. If you're using coins, you're just going to put in a couple more coins and pay the same rate that.
Mr. Karen?
Yeah, it recognizes coins if you're expanding the time that you spent at the meter. It does recognize coins, as well as credit cards, as well as Park Mobile. So the point is that, what we're trying to do is try to, get people who want long-term parking. You can park on the street, get them into the garage, and therefore there's a turnover on the street, so there's less traffic, there's less cars driving around the corner looking for a parking space on the street, because there'll be more of a turnover. For 2 hours, you're going to be paying $3, which compared to a garage right now is $5. $5 for 2 hours.
Thank you. I understand that. I just, if you make multiple visits to your parking meter, you'll be able to pay the $1.50 rate. If every 2 hours you visit the meter, you put the coins in, the progressive pricing won't hurt you, correct?
No, it's not, no.
Okay, so do we really think this is going to address the problem of people feeding the meters?
Yes, like Mr. Carlotti said, this is like it's something that we're gonna take a look at. We're trying to drive more people into the parking deck, trying to get people to pay more money at the meter that are feeding the meter, and putting them in the parking deck and creating less traffic on the streets. That's what our goal is through this.
Okay, and is there an estimate on how much extra money will be made off of the increase?
Mr. Karen?
Approximately, everything together, approximately $300,000.
$300,000 in 1 year.
And
Yearly?
yes, annually.
Thank you. That's the same as annual?
Yes.
All right, well, I'll review this and I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crowder. Nobody else? Can we get a motion?
Move the resolution, excuse me.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar.
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Aye.
Council President Egan.
Yes. We have ordinance on first reading, 501. Yes.
We need another motion
Okay.
to carry this to the 19th for the second reading as amended. Same ordinance, please.
Second.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar.
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Aye.
Council President Egan.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ordinances for discussion, first reading, 501, ordinance to amend and supplement the revised general ordinance of the city of New Brunswick. Title 10, vehicle and traffic. Amend various schedules in the city ordinances. Section 10, 12-010, Schedule 2, trucks over 4 tons excluded. Section 10, 12-020, Schedule 4, one-way streets. 10, 12-30, Schedule 5, through streets. 10, 12-04, Schedule 6, stop intersections. 10, 12-110, Schedule 13, left turn, prohibitions. Section 10, 16-020, Schedule 24, no parking at any time. Section 10, 16, 210, Schedule 38, time limit parking.
Move the ordinance setting down Wednesday, August 19th for public hearing, same date to be advertised. Second.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar.
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Aye.
Council President Egan.
Yes. We have resolutions 501 with 548, with 510, with no fireworks or no bull ride. Would anybody from the public like to comment on any of these particular resolutions? On the resolutions only, please. Remember the 5-minute rules in effect. Sorry.
Good evening once again, Charles Gradeville. I'll start with page 5, number 19. The pickup truck for the water utility, what's the purpose of the purchase? Who's going to be driving that vehicle and what for?
Mr. Lockwood?
To replace a vehicle that has hundreds of thousands of miles on it and has no longer a useful life, will be used by the distribution group. The group that goes out and pushes hydrants and fixes water main breaks and things like that.
Thank you.
Okay, and on the topic of the water utility, is the director going to get a take-home vehicle? This is not a take-home vehicle, but is the director going to get
I don't
one?
think he said that. Did you hear him say that? It's not a take-home vehicle.
Right.
I believe in the last meeting you asked the same question. He said he will not be getting a take-home vehicle.
It's not,
Has
yes.
that changed, Mr.
And
Lockwood?
that's not changed.
Thank you.
And
Still the same answer.
how about the previous director, the demoted director? Does he still have his take-home vehicle?
The previous director, do you know if he takes on this?
The water treatment plant superintendent does have a vehicle for commutation.
Yes, he does. I believe we talked about that. I believe that there's a problem at the water plant. He's the guy that's supposed to come here, and that's why he gets the car. Am I correct in saying that?
That's correct.
I'll jump ahead to page 9, number 40. I'd also draw your attention to several other items on the agenda for paying for lawyers, for police officers who've been accused of misconduct, the most serious kind of misconduct in the case of Barry DeLoach being murdered by Brad Riddell. Can you tell me, this case, this new case I've never heard of before, Detrick Stallings versus City of New Brunswick, what are the accusations? What's the nature of the complaint?
Mr. Shammy?
This is a federal district court matter that just was filed involving false arrest and false charges against the plaintiff, Mr. Stallings, as a result of charges for, I believe it was robbery or something of that nature. Apparently, Mr. Stallings was vindicated and he decided to sue the city as a result of his arrest and imprisonment for a period of time. So that's what it's about.
Okay, so fits the pattern that we've seen in New Brunswick, false arrest, false imprisonment. What is being done about this?
This is the only false imprisonment that I'm aware of, Mr. Bradwell.
Just a few months earlier, we were talking about a different one on that you were paying for the lawyer
I
bills.
thought that's the same guy.
No, this is a new one. This is brand new. So, and by the way, the reason you might think that it's an old one is because this guy's name has come up before, often Detective Brant Grigas. You've probably heard the name many times.
I have heard his name.
Yeah, so what's being done about Detective Grigas and what's being done about the systemic problem of people being falsely arrested and falsely imprisoned by the New Brunswick Police Department?
Mr. Shammy?
Well, everyone has a right to sue, and that's exactly what this individual is doing. Whether his allegations are going to be determined to have merit in a court of law is yet to be determined. I can say that I know that Detective Grigas and some of the names repeat themselves because I believe those officers are all part of the same squad or unit that investigates crimes and causes arrests, as opposed to seeing perhaps patrol officers. These are the individuals, I believe, in the Detective Bureau who do the investigations and whatnot relative to criminal incidents. I'm no expert in that area. Perhaps the captain could answer that question. If there's any more on that.
Captain Milligan, you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think Mr. Shammy covered it. The more aggressive officers are involved in more arrests, and you're going to see there anymore.
So that was an answer to a different question than the one I asked. I just want to ask what's being done about it. Not do people have a right to sue or why are these names coming up frequently. What is being done about it to prevent these costly lawsuits and these immoral, you're locking people up who didn't do the crime.
Mr. Crowder, history will show, in the history of New Brunswick, that this has been going on. We're always going to have these problems with the police, with people saying that they were accused falsely. And, you know, just like Mr. Shammy said before, they go to the court of law, and the court of law decides whether who is right and who is wrong. Under the contract with the state of the PBA and the city of New Brunswick, they have the right to representation, and we pay for that representation.
We pay for that representation.
Correct.
The taxpayers pay for it. And I'm saying, what are you doing to limit that? What are you doing to make sure that there are less of these lawsuits, less of these incidents where aggressive officers are falsely imprisoning people? What are we doing about that problem?
Mr. Crabble, I don't know how that, an answer for you right now about that.
Can you ask the police captain who's here tonight what's being done about these aggressive officers who are frequently getting themselves
Captain
sued?
Milligan?
Just because Mr. Cradwell states that there's a problem doesn't in fact mean there is a problem, so I really don't know how to respond to that.
Okay.
You said he vindicated. Was the case adjudicated or was it dropped?
I don't know all the
All right.
circumstances of the case, so I'm not gonna, we don't generally discuss litigation in public
Yeah.
meeting anyway. But what I recited to you was what was pled in the complaint, and that's a public document, Mr. Crabbe. You can go to the federal court and get a copy of that for me online. But,
Mr. Crabble, can we just move on, please, to another thing?
I think this is actually important, and I think it would be a mistake to move on. I think that every member of the council should go home and start looking into this. And I think that rather than just sort of, saying, oh, we can't talk about it now, or we're not sure whether it's true or not, you should actually investigate and actually try to come up with solutions. If there's an officer who's admittedly aggressive, maybe we could do something about that. Maybe he could not be as aggressive, or maybe he doesn't belong on the force. I don't think the council's ever taken a look at the systemic problems here. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to look into this, or are you unwilling
I
to
don't
look
see
into
this
this?
as a systemic problem. We have 144 police officers in the police department, or more. There's five guys on the paper here. Like I said, this has been going on, this is in every department, in every municipality that you go to. There's someone suing somebody in the police department. So if we could just move on, that would be great, because your 5 minutes is running out, sir.
I think that you are being extremely dismissive of what is a very serious problem. And if it was you or one of your family members who had been falsely imprisoned, you'd probably feel differently about it. But because you're up there,
Is that
and
how
you're,
you feel? Is that how you feel? Is that your feeling towards me? Is that what you think?
that if you were one of your family members was falsely imprisoned, you'd probably think that it deserved a little more investigation from the government?
Okay. That's
Yeah.
your opinion, okay.
Am I wrong?
Mr. Crabbe, we'll move on, please.
Well, I would urge the council and the public and everyone here to investigate the New Brunswick Police Department, especially the officers who repeatedly are being sued and the tactics that are repeatedly being used. I won't get into it, but let's just say there's probably going to be more complaints of false arrests coming your way. I'll move to page 8, the previous page. 37. $500,000 being spent on radio equipment. Is this so that you can take away the public's ability to listen to the police scanner, the police radio communications?
Captain?
We looked at several alternatives, the other two being over $1 million. This is a complete replacement of our back-end radio system at headquarters, including rooftop transmitters and receivers. Our current system's only putting out half the wattage that we're allowed to by law, and we've run into increased problems with dead spots since we've gone to the narrow band. So this was the most economic alternative, and one of the options was the encryption, and the director insisted on that.
You don't say. So, Mr. Council President, you promised me at a council meeting that you would stand against the police encrypting their police scanner, because you said you valued people's right to listen to it. When I live in a neighborhood that is sometimes dangerous, and when I hear things that sound like gunshots, I turn on the police scanner so I can hear what's going on. I think that's a valuable thing, not just for journalists, but for general members of the public to understand if there's an area that they should stay away from, or a disaster or a problem. We've had situations where there was a huge lockdown at Robert.
Get to the point, please.
I'm using my time. There's a huge lockdown at Robert Wood Johnson Hospital. People found out about it from New Brunswick today, and I found out about it because I was listening to the police scanner. So I would like to know, will you stand up against the director of the police department who wants to take away the public's right to encrypt, to listen to the police scanner?
Once again, Mr. Crowder, you have some of the facts wrong, like usual. I said to you, I have no problem with people listening to police scanners, and I still don't have a problem with it. I said I would talk to the police department and the mayor about it, the encryption. And I did, and we've had this discussion. And they told me why they needed it and why they wanted it and how all the Rutgers police and everybody else is doing it. And I said, okay. And I said that to you. What else, what am I going to say?
Can you tell me why? What did they say? Why do they need it? Why do they want it? Why is the director insisting on it?
Mr. Captain Milligan?
Yes, Mr. Council President, I was remiss. We've come across several individuals in the course of our duties who have the apps. One individual had a separate cell phone strictly for the app to listen to our radio transmissions. There is currently a statute that prohibits the use of a police scanner during the commission of a crime, but there is no legislation for these apps. So this would prevent them from hearing that we're coming when they're committing wrongs.
Well, I'll urge you to reconsider. I think you should keep your promise to me. If you watch the video, you did say that for you, Charlie, I will be against this. And you said that you would be, and I'm asking you to use your power for good and stick up against it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Are there other offhand, other police departments in the area that use
Yes.
encryption?
There is. Can you speak on the other police departments in our area? I know Rutgers has the encryption.
Correct, that was one of the more expensive alternatives, would be go to a trunk system, which inherently scrambles the signal so that it can't be picked up by scanners or these apps. Franklin, Highland Park, most of the, but that would have been $1 million project.
But the question we're asking is, can you name other police departments in the area that use encryption? I don't care what kind.
It comes with those truncated systems, it comes with the encryption, so they are.
Okay.
So I'll just close by saying, do the right thing here.
I didn't do exactly what I tell you I was going to do. Once again, you're misinterpreting the truth, Mr. Pratt. Once again, I have no problem with anybody listening to police scanners.
Then why are you allowing this to happen? Why are you allowing the police
Mr.
to...
telling me they convinced me that it's a crucial tactic to doing your police duties.
They convinced you.
That's correct.
When did they convince you? Just now when you heard the reason?
Thank you, Mr. Pratt.
Do the right thing.
Okay. Thank you. You do the right thing also.
My goodness, Mr. Brother.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Kind of piggyback on what Charlie said. What was the reason that, because it's not explained to me, like, the reason why people are not allowed to listen to police scanners? Could he say specifically an incident that someone listening to a police scanner, where they went to a crime scene or went to a call and enabled them to do their job? Do we have a specific incident that took place where he could say that's the reason why they're getting...
Captain, do we have a specific incident?
I personally don't know of them, but I'm sure the Detective Bureau could tell us that.
I'm sure we can dig it up and get some incidents.
Yeah, I think that you should probably present that to the community, stating that, well, this took place on this day, that took place on that day, and things of that nature, opposed to saying we have issues and you're not telling us what the issues are. If they're able to do their job fine, we should keep things the way they are and not waste money. If there's something enabling them to do their job, that's a whole different story, and I think the community needs to know that.
Okay, we'll get some answers to it.
Also, I want to mention, also, Officer Graves. His name been up, it's not just a few occasions, his name's been up several times. He's been mentioned several times, and it seems like the more he's mentioned, the more he feels like he has immunity. Because his behavior hasn't changed, his demeanor hasn't changed, and if he's constantly bringing up, my question is, at what point will you give this officer a psych evaluation?
I really don't know that answer. Captain Milligan, I mean, we give
Upon hiring, everyone goes through a psychological examination, and then if there's cause during the course of their employment, we would send them for a fitness for duty.
Okay, has Officer Vegas ever had a fitness for duty?
No, sir.
He has not.
I think that's one of the problems. Because his name is constantly being brought up, and his superiors are constantly protecting him, and that's giving him, a sense of strength because nothing's happening to him. He's not being reprimanded. Now, he said, we don't know for a fact that this officer is corrupt. I don't know if Captain Milligan would like to listen, or if the council would like to listen, but I have a recording of, come on, man. Let me tell you what happened. Well, you know what you're playing with. Now, being that you guys said that, just unfortunately, last time you called my bluff, I ended up with the notepad. So, since you said this, I have a recording of Officer Grace.
I have a CD. As a matter of fact, I made several copies of it. This police officer contacting the Middlesex County prosecutor, person from Middlesex County prosecutor officer, happens to be Emmanuel Samaro, known racist, and getting a search warrant for a home under false pretense. He's lying about a number of things, which is a fact that he's lying. And these people actually conduct this search warrant and raided these homes off of the lies that he admitted to, he told to the Middlesex County prosecutor. Now the CD is easy. You can listen to it, and then you'll find out that he's lying. He's a liar. So not only is he,
You brought the CD to the internal investigations and the Brunswick police?
for what?
For justice.
Because I'm going to bring it to a person like Captain Milligan, who runs the internal affairs, and then we'll be back to square one. But if
He doesn't run the internal affairs.
he's an officer. You know. But if you were to listen to it, and then his name is mentioned again, then you will know for a fact that this officer has no integrity. And at the least, you don't have to fire him. You don't have to reprimand him. My question, just give him an updated psych evaluation. That's all I think. How about that? You don't even have to reprimand him, but just get him evaluated before you let him off into the community. After listening to the CD.
Mr. Pittman, I don't have the authority to demand anybody to get a psychic
He
evaluation.
does.
Number two, Mr. Gregus' name has come up in several township, but he's never been accused of anything.
He's always accused of things.
Or found guilty.
He's alleged to have done.
He's alleged.
But if you have one officer, you said there's 144 officers, and you have this one officer coming up several times, and now you're still, you know what I mean, you're still saying that allegedly, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I say, for instance, you know, people, but say somebody knocked his head off tomorrow. He found out laid out dead. I don't want you to get on TV and say what type of great officer he was. I want you to get a background of all these alleged claims. If somebody shoot him dead in the streets, I don't want to see his wife on TV. I don't want to see a picture with his children. I want you to give all the alleged complaints that was against this officer, and the blood is on your hands because you refused to do something about it. And we'll leave it at that. That's a reality that you don't want to face, but look, you're not taming this monster. We're constantly getting complaints up here. People are constantly complaining. Timothy McDougal complained. A number of people complain. I'm telling you, I have an actual recording of this officer and his misconduct.
Why don't we bring it to the internal investigations? Maybe this will then be in the right step in direction.
I'm telling you, it doesn't work.
You have to have proof. You have to come here with, you have to have some substantial proof. So you can be, if it's true, then he'll be found guilty of something.
What happened?
I'm just going on accusations and things that you say. Nothing's been proven on the guy.
Nah, me and you can listen to it. Me and you can listen to it. And then when this is what I'm saying, when his name come up, you have the impression like, well, you know what? Something's fishy. Something's fishy. If you hear it, and the internal affairs is not a process that works. It has no evidence of working for the community.
Well, if you had something substantial like that on tape, I think that'd be a good start.
All right, well, continue to let this officer run rampant and terrorize our community. Thank you.
We're back on resolutions. Anybody else like to comment on the resolutions? Seeing none?
Move the resolutions.
Second. No, 38. No. 38. Yeah, I can do that too. I don't know. 38.
So noted. Mr. Fleming, are you doing the second?
Yes, I'm going to second.
Okay. Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar?
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti?
Aye.
Council President Egan?
Yes. We'll now move to the public portion of the meeting. Anybody who'd like to address the council, please come up to the microphone, please. 5 minutes.
Hi, yes, my name is Danielle Moore, 188 Walker Street. So I realized I came in on the right day where I hear you speak and you say, wow, if you have the proof, something will be taken care of. And then also where I heard you speak on item number 2 about crosswalks for what's the street? But I hear you say, wow, you want to make it safe. And actually, that's what I'm here today, due to where I happened to to be over, let's see, Bristol Street, Robinson Street, Prospect Street. Wow, this is all college area. But wow, I see you repaved the streetways, did new crosswalks. These are college students, and for you to say, wow, you're gonna make it safer for them to walk. Now please tell me what in a school zone, elementary school, how bad these roads really look for a crosswalk? Like I said, I'm going to give you the pictures, but I mean starting with Joyce Comer, Sedan, Joyce Comer, Handy, Livingston Avenue, Sanford, Lee, and Sanford. Wow, none of the walkways have been done in a school zone for little children that will be walking across the street. But my, I have so many pictures, and with you speaking about what all the roads and crosswalks are being done in the college area. So please do to where you said, okay, if you have the proof, something will be taken care of. So do to where I'm not able to take a picture of every block in the neighborhood, but for school zone, within the next 2 weeks, I hope you have these roads done, just as well as you've done them for the college students to make it safe for the other children. And like I said, I'm not able to get pictures of every one, but like I said, the major ones that need to be done, that's Livingston Avenue, on Delavan, on Comstock, and on Sanford Street. Lee Avenue and Sanford. Like I said, wow, they have so many holes in them you can't even really tell that they're crosswalk. And then far as another one, that's what is with Livingston School? Is this school going to be open this year?
Livingston School?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Well, okay, if you're telling me that this school is going to be open, wow, I know you give out fines for people who don't take care of their sidewalks. But wow, look at the sidewalk for, let me just find it, but for where the sidewalks are so holy, what with all the teachers coming up on the sidewalks, crossing the sidewalks. So I hope to see, like I said, I have pictures, but I have so many of them here, to show you, wow, why would you bring children back to school with these holes in sidewalks? I mean, around the whole entire Livingston School. What do you plan to do about it?
You fix them.
Well, like I said, wow, I've got short time with all this management. Like I said, I'm not expecting just for Redshaw, Livingston. Like I said, I'm not everywhere at the right time, but I'm somewhere at the right time. I hope you plan to fix these crosswalks and the sidewalks around the school.
Okay.
I'm not making no threat, but I hope to see major work done in the next 2 weeks, or believe me, I still have pals with Channel 2, Channel 12, and Channel 7 News. You said you did it for the college.
Well, thank you for not threatening us.
Well, if it meant, believe me, if it meant for somebody getting hurt, to stop somebody from getting hurt,
We
I will.
don't want anybody to get hurt, believe me. We will address it. If there's a problem there, we feel someone's gonna get hurt.
Well, like
we
I
want to
said-
have everybody, we're gonna get
Oh, like I said, I got the proof here for you. Like I said, I hope
Please,
thank
do
you.
we have the pictures?
Okay, sure, you may have it. Like I said, I hope within the next 2 weeks I start seeing some work done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, I wasn't here last meeting. Thank you, Mr. Weaver, the water crew, for fixing a hole in the crosswalk. Thank you.
You got right on that, right?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And we'll certainly try to address these problems here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Rita Yelda, and I am a New Brunswick resident. I live at 39 Brookside Avenue. I also work for Food and Water Watch. In 2014, New Brunswick privatized the management of its water system to American Water Operations and Maintenance Incorporated, a wholly owned subsidiary of American Water Works Company Incorporated, which is the largest domestic water utility company out there. By targeting struggling municipal water systems for takeover, American Water seeks to purchase, lease, or manage water and sewer services, particularly ones adjacent to its existing network, to secure private profit. With high costs and water quality violations, privatization has failed New Brunswick. The city needs responsible public management and operation to best serve its residents. The water utility has experienced various problems since bringing in American Water into the mix, including operational malfunctions and improper or insufficient water treatment. Under supervision of American Water, New Brunswick Water Treatment Plant violated water quality regulations by failing to properly treat the water 11 times. When chlorine contact times are too low, water can contain disease-causing organisms known to cause nausea, cramps, diarrhea, and associated headaches. Is this really what New Brunswick residents deserve, tainted water? Then, to make matters worse, the water utility failed to provide public notice within the 30-day time frame as required by federal law. In fact, the public notice was not released until April 17th, more than 3 months after the city learned that the violations had occurred. In the contracts the city signed with American Water, the city has given up the ability to make American Water pay for the fines they incur. So who's footing the bill for the 11 days of water mistreatment? Was it us, the taxpayers of New Brunswick, having to pay extra for our own tainted water? That's just not right. New Brunswick contract with American Water has failed to live up to expectations and has put the health of New Brunswick residents at risk. Bringing in American Water was no seamless solution. The city should sever and not renew its management contract with American Water when it ends in September 2015, which is coming up quick. And the municipality should regain all control over our essential water resources. There are many questions that I want to know the answer to. Is the city currently negotiating a renewal or change with American Water? Will the city be done with American Water when the contract expires on September 30th? Will there be an extension month by month? If so, for how long? What doesn't the city have in place that they would be hiring American Water to do? Has the city been charged for the violations from the 11 days that our water went mistreated? Last year, Food and Water Watch asked the City Council to begin asking for regular reports with measurable benchmarks from the water director, so that we're not once again in a position where nobody knows what the heck is going on within the facility and within its leadership. Yet here we are again, almost a year later, and we still don't know what's going on within the water facility. We need to not set ourselves up to be in a position again where nobody seems to know what's going on. I would appreciate an answer to all of the questions that I asked, and I also would like to invite all of the council members. We're actually doing a screening with Unity Square. It's going to be a Spanish language film with English subtitles about water privatization. We're going to be talking about what's happening in New Brunswick. So I actually have handouts for all of you. So if you want to come and represent the City Council, we would love to have you there to talk about this issue. Because right now the residents are really upset about the water being untreated and about having to pay these fines. So I don't know who to give this to pass it out. But yes, I would like an answer to my questions. If you want me to repeat them, I can.
Yes, maybe, no, yes, yes.
So is the city currently renegotiating a deal with American Water past September 30th?
No.
So the city is going to be done with American Water September 30th?
I didn't say that. We don't know yet. Listen, we all want to go back to the public producing water treatment center that we had before.
Right.
Okay, we brought American Water in because we had no other licenses. They were the best price for us to have licenses around the clock. Okay, we since had some bumps in the road, and we've continued and strived to provide the safest water for the residents of New Brunswick. We've never had to stop serving our residents water. We never had to purchase water from outside anywhere in the utility. Okay, we were able to maintain. We never laid off one person from the water department. Okay, we all, as a city council, the administrator, the mayor, we all want to go back there, and we're just not comfortable at that point yet. Hopefully, we're going to get there very soon. So we will, and we do want to go back to a public water system. We do want to sever our ties with American Water. But we want to make sure that everything's in place. We just hired a new director. He has the licenses that we need. So we are working towards the goal of eliminating American Water. We don't have a time, we don't have a date on when that's going to be, but that is our goal, and that's what we're going to get to.
Okay, what does the city not have that it still is looking for from American Water?
we not have?
Right, are there certain, certain contracts, certain positions?
Yes, Ms. Carlisle.
This is a legal negotiation process and an internal administrative evaluation process that if you force us to conduct these negotiations in public, it will frustrate the city's flexibility in dealing with this contractor. And you are increasing or facilitating the misunderstanding among New Brunswick citizens about the services that American Water is providing. So you are actually part of the problem as opposed to part of the solution.
How
So,
How am I misinforming? What's misinformation?
You're telling the citizens of New Brunswick that their water isn't safe. As if that was, that.
There were 11 days where it was not safe.
11 days! 11 days, not 11 years, not 11 months.
11 days too
You are
much.
exaggerating. You even exaggerate,
11
I'm
days
exaggerating
of
with my
nausea
voice the same
and
way you
headaches.
exaggerate with your voice. Just let the process move forward. You had the assurance of the city council president that we want to remain a public water system. What more do you want from us? Blood signatures?
No, I would like to know
Please.
the answer to all of these questions. Who paid the fine for the 11 days where the water was not treated?
There was no fine, as I recall. American Water paid for the cost of putting out a Tier 2 notice.
Thank you. Next question.
What services does the city not have that we're looking to American Water for?
Mr. Rocker.
I'm not looking to American Water for anything. They are providing W4 services to us, and they're providing us with management of our operators in the form of 2 T3 operators. That is what the contract has been, turned into over time. When the contract started, they were providing us with 2 T4 operators and a W4 operator. Since we've hired our own T4 operators, their services on the American Water side are no longer necessary. The only thing they're providing us at the moment is W4 service and supervision of our operators, and these are people who have T3 licenses.
Thank you. Next question, ma'am.
Thank you for your time, and I'm not spreading misinformation. It's actually true. 11 days
You did
of
say
drinking.
earlier that the water was untreated. That's
So it was
totally-
mistreated. It was mistreated.
Untreated.
There was
No,
11
I have my
days.
script right here. It says mistreated.
You said American Water was
You
running
said-
our
you said
water
untreated.
department. That's not true. American Water is not running our water department.
So for all intents and purposes, they are in terms of who's treating our water right now. It's American Water. Be real. It's American Water, and they're the ones who are responsible for this 11 days. And that does put our health at risk. I know you think like, oh, 11 days, it doesn't matter, but it does matter. People could get nauseous, people could get sick. That's people's health. I mean, how abrasive to not care about the residents of New Brunswick that you're set to represent. Thank you for this time.
My name is Adam Ujalgo. I live on 5 Woodbridge Street. First of all, I don't typically make it out to a lot of meetings. I usually work in the evenings, but every single time I've been here, somebody different has complained about the internal affairs process. So I just wanted to ask the council, would you consider establishing a civilian review board, not to supplant IA, but to be there to confirm or dispute the findings of IA?
I'm not in favor of the civilian review board because I'm in favor of what they're doing with the Attorney General guidelines, and I believe we even have somebody from the prosecutor's office involved in internal affairs. Do we still have that, or do we not have that, Captain Bowman?
They're at their discretion whenever they need them, but not constant oversight.
But you don't think a civilian review board might be something useful in order to essentially get a second opinion from the people that, are subject to the police
We
department's
said we have a
oversight?
second opinion with the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office.
All right, and then the other question I had, and might be one for the Environmental Commission, I really don't know. Seeing a lot of solar panels and stuff like that around lately, which is really encouraging. I was wondering if the city has any policies to incentivize green infrastructure on the private end, and also has any policies in place or a plan in place to, establish green infrastructure programs in public buildings, things like retrofitting buildings for stormwater.
Well, we're doing all that right now. In the city of New Brunswick, all our schools are just been retrofitted for all lighting with LED ballasts in all the public schools. When New Brunswick High School was built and several parking garages throughout the city, we got solar on the roofs. So we're utilizing the solar panels in our buildings throughout the city. And we've definitely worked in some of the motor control rooms and things like that to get motors and different things as far as helping out with the green with the electric.
Do we have a particular fund that's dedicated to green infrastructure projects, or where does money typically come from to be allocated to those sorts of projects?
That money came from probably the Board of Public Utilities. There's a thing in the legislature in the state of New Jersey, I forget the initials for it, that allows the Board of Education to pick a contractor that gets subsidized by Board of Public Utilities to come in and change all the lighting ballasts and things like that. That's where that money came from.
I would also ask going forward, again, that you just consider possibly establishing a fund or something that would dedicate money to expanding green infrastructure projects. I think it's great that we have these initiatives going forward so far, and I'd really like to see New Brunswick become a leader of that at the local level, because I think that's what's really going to change things as far as, you know, how everybody wants to go green, but it's, you know, a bottom-up sort of thing, and I think municipalities have a lot of control in really advancing that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening once again, members of the council. I'm Charles Prattville. I'm from New Brunswick. I recently discovered that the chairman of the New Brunswick Housing Authority does not live in New Brunswick.
Yes.
He lives in Princeton, he told me. I just want to ask, honestly, give the council a chance, do you all live in New Brunswick?
Do I live in New Brunswick?
Yes.
Longer than a year old, but
Okay. And
yes, the answer.
the other members of the council, could they say, do you live in New Brunswick?
It's up to them whether they want to answer.
He knows.
It's a city ordinance, we have to.
No, it has to be.
Well, it was a city ordinance that he had to live in New Brunswick too.
I understand that, I understand.
So
Mr. Gonzalez resigned this afternoon, Mr. Crowder.
he did?
Yes, he did.
Oh, it's news to me.
Wow.
Well, then I'll just move on. I want to second everything Ms. Yelda said. We need to get American Water out of power here.
We want to get there. We want to get there, okay? Things just don't happen overnight like we all like to. I mean, in a second, I wish I could snap my fingers and a lot of things could happen, but they don't. But we want to get there. We as a council, I'm speaking, I asked if I could speak on everybody, and everybody's in agreement that we all want to get there, and that's the goal that we're going to get to.
Terrific. I think that's the right thing to do. I have to ask about the crime numbers that came out recently. I noticed the very steep increase in the number of rapes reported the first half of this year versus the first half of last year, and also robberies are up 28%.
And where do you get these reports from, sir?
The state police,
State police?
the uniform crime report. So yeah, what's the city doing about the increase in rapes and robberies?
Captain Milligan,
I'm not quite sure what numbers he's referring to.
the state police records? This is in the
Uniform
city-
crime report, the first 6 months of the year.
Uniform crime report.
They are tentative and they are not accurate and can't be relied on. They haven't been validated yet. So we don't even know if they're right.
So are rapes and robberies increasing or not?
Do we
I have
know?
no knowledge of that.
We don't know.
We will get the information for you, Mr. Brown, at the next meeting. Please, somebody in the police department, I would like to get that information. And let's compare it to what the state police came out with. Please.
Yes, sir, these preliminary numbers are not valid.
Okay.
They can change, so we
Okay.
haven't even seen them. We
Let's-
reported
we can
monthly.
get some, hard numbers to those. Which ones do you want to see? Because rapes?
I'd like all the numbers. If they're not valid, I want the valid
Okay,
numbers.
so we will look into that. So, thank you, Captain.
Yeah. Okay. I feel that I've answered some of these questions before. I spoke to Captain Miller. He said he's given the council some information about the hiring of Mr. Barber that you can share with me. Is that true?
He wrote a letter about Mr. Barber's hiring, and I saw it briefly, and you can certainly have a copy of it.
Terrific.
You can have a copy of it.
Okay, great, I'll just take that. So, my time is ticking away.
City Attorney? You want to take a look
I
at it?
take a look at it, but
Here it is.
Mr. Cradible wants to open it, so we'll
Under the advisement of city attorney, I'm gonna, hopefully you can get the copy of that letter that we wrote regarding the hiring of Mr. Barber.
Okay, well, can I get it today or not?
He's gonna take a look at it first. We're gonna read it
Okay,
first.
okay, well, I'm sure.
I don't wanna, listen, I don't wanna make one of those promises that you talk about all the time, okay? I'm hoping that you can have it. Okay, lawyers have a tendency to say different things, you know, it's just, you know, or legal things that I'm not aware of.
Tell me
And
about
I'm
it.
being, I know.
Yeah. All right, well,
But I do want you to have it, sir.
okay, well, then I'll go back in time a little bit. We can talk about Mr. Ferrazzoli. Mr. Ferrazzoli
Can we move forward?
was,
Can you just move forward?
well, I think you need to look at the past to really understand what's going on today. So Mr. Ferrazzoli was a convicted criminal, and the police director hired him at the recommendation of a former police director. And the police director I'm referring to, Mangarella, hired him at the request of Joseph Catanese. Is that correct?
I have no idea.
That's what was said at the last 2 meetings ago.
Okay?
I never raised Mangarella's name. I, in error, said I thought that Joe Catanese might have recommended his hire. That was inaccurate. Director Caputo recommended his hire.
Okay, so the current police director recommended the hiring of a convicted criminal to the police department. That's correct.
Yes.
I can't say that.
I don't know if Mr. Caputo, really was a convicted criminal. I mean, I don't know that answer. No one's here to answer.
Good point. He might not have known. Does the police department check the criminal records of the people it hires?
Captain Milligan?
Yes, sir, we do.
Then how was Mr. Ferrazzoli hired?
I do not know, sir.
Can you ask the captain?
I did, he has, Captain Milligan,
I don't know anything about a criminal conviction.
do you know, about the hiring of Mr. Ferguson?
He worked for me, but that's about it.
Okay.
Okay, and that position he was in was the office supervisor position. That's a civil service position. Did he get the job because he scored first on the civil service test, or did he get the job because Anthony Caputo recommended he get the job?
Captain Milligan?
I have no idea.
His hire was recommended by Director Caputo.
His hiring was.
Often a hire will trigger a civil service test if a list does not already exist. I think we've gone through that a couple times as well.
Okay, and is it true that the city argued it no longer needed somebody in that position when they had to explain themselves to the Civil Service Commission about the person who followed Mr. Ferrazzoli, Mr. Bannier? The city argued that they didn't need an office supervisor anymore because I believe you created a new position for Mr. Bannier? Is that correct?
We did create a new position for Mr. Bannier, yes, which has since been certified by the Civil Service Commission.
And so that, did you argue to the Civil Service Commission that you no longer needed an office supervisor?
I didn't argue with them at all. We decided to restructure that services unit that was under Captain Milligan's supervision, and we decided that Mr. Bannier's requirements ought to be more to manage the fleet as opposed to being an office supervisor. Hence the title he has, Assistant Supervisor of the Motor Pool. Again, something that was authorized and approved by Civil Service.
Thank you.
Right, and so then why did you hire an extra person to supervise him, Mr. Barber?
That's all in the letter.
It's in the letter?
It's on the letter.
Can I have the letter?
Another restructuring of the office. In the meantime, regrettably, the other party in the services unit, Bill Nowitzki, passed away from a heart attack, causing the restructure of the services unit, as well as some other factors. The services unit still is 2 people. It is now Mr. Bannier and Mr. Barber. I think the letter will speak to some of those things.
Okay, can I have the letter today?
I'm done reading it, Mr. Cradible.
Okay.
After the meeting, come see me. I'm a quick reader, but I'm trying to listen to you as
Okay,
well.
I understand. And so, so Mr. Barber was hired, no civil service test was done though. Why was that?
I don't tell civil service when to issue a test. They're the ones who decide whether a test is required or not. They may, in fact, months from now, tell us that they think Mr. Barber should be subject to a test, or maybe he will score well on a test. But in the absence of a test, we make a hire that we think is appropriate. I think we're entitled to do that.
Now,
I think we're empowered to do that. We're expected to do that.
okay. Now, is it not true that there was a test done and the results of the test are still valid through next year?
There's a test for, there's a list that just came out in July with 2 names on it. One of them is an incumbent who is looking for a civil service certification of office supervisor in another division.
Okay. So not for that particular.
Not for the office
Not for-
supervisor
not for-
position in the police department.
I guess it's unclear why Mr. Barber was hired officially, but it seems pretty clear that he was hired because of his political connections to Mayor Cahill, to the police department where he used to work. And I think that we have a problem in our department where folks are being hired when they're already collecting pensions, they're already essentially retired, but now they're taking jobs from other people who could get them, and now they're collecting a pension and a salary. And of course, Mayor Cahill is one of them, the police director is one of them, the former police director, Mr. Mangarella, is one of them, and Mr. Barber is now one of them. And I just think we got to really ask ourselves a hard question about, are we trying to help people advance through the system, or are we trying to make people who are well off already even richer? And I want to ask what you think about that.
Me personally?
Yes.
Mr. Crandall, first of all, let me say that Mr. Barber has a lot of experience. He worked in the Brunswick Police Department. He knows this area of expertise, according to what the people are telling me. Secondly, you know, these guys aren't doing anything illegal. And why should a ex-police officer, retired, be excommunicated from seeking work somewhere else? Why should they be shut out? As much as some people don't like it, or it leaves a bad taste in their mouth, and like leaves a thing, let's give somebody else a chance who didn't ever had a job before, they're not doing anything illegal. They're doing everything that's legal in the court of law, and they're more than entitled to come back and get a job somewhere else. And why should they be tarnished or put off to the side just because they were a police officer before? You're not the first person that has spoken about this, and I've heard about this. But those are the rules, and they're playing by the rules.
Right.
And why should they be punished because they served as a police officer? Why shouldn't they be able to work? No one's made a law that says they can't come back and do it. No one's made a law that says if you're collecting a public pension, you can't come back and work in a public entity again. No one's made those laws yet. So until then, these guys are perfectly entitled to come back and do that.
Right. Well, I would just suggest this fits the pattern that Mr. Ferrazoli, was a convicted criminal, was recommended his hire, he was hired, and now we have a person who that might not have a criminal record, might have a stellar record, but he's being hired because of political
Mr. Barber
actions.
was a proven police officer. He served well, he retired, he left to go take an advanced position in Trenton, the way I understand it. Came back, he's been a lifelong resident of the city of New Brunswick. His family's been a lifelong resident of the city of New Brunswick. And why should he be cast off because he was an ex-police officer, or because his wife works in the mayor's office? I mean, that guy, he has the proper credentials, and they believe that he was the right man for the job.
I'm not suggesting he should be cast off, he should not get special treatment, but I'll move on.
All right.
In your neighborhood, the red light camera came down. It's litter. It's on the side of the road.
I see it, yeah.
What's happening with that litter? What are you going to do about it?
We're supposed to get rid of it. I've called somebody to try to get rid of it. Someone's supposed to be coming to pick it up. I don't know who.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with. I know the equipment. I don't know who. It's not owned by us, and I don't know who's making arrangements to have it removed. I'll look into that tomorrow.
Thank you. And then the last thing is the ethics board is scheduled to meet August 13th. Do they still have meetings, or do they only meet when there's a complaint?
Mr. Shannon.
Only when there's a complaint?
When there's a complaint, they definitely meet, and I believe that they have quarterly meetings which are subject to cancellation if there's no business. So there's a quarterly meeting schedule, annual schedule first issued. And whether they keep to that depends upon whether they have business to attend to. But it's definitely complaint driven. If there's a complaint, causes the meeting to be held and the board to be assembled.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Who can I give my complaint to?
The clerk.
Go to city clerk.
Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Yes, sir.
How you doing? My name is Dan Coughlin. I'm a New Brunswick resident. I just wanted to briefly revisit the Citizen Review Board idea, just because it seems like it's a pressing concern on the community. Based on what you said earlier, I would argue that to say that the police and the internal affairs and the prosecutors should review the actions of the police seems kind of ridiculous, because they are the people who are potentially committing the crimes. Now, I'm not saying that they are committing a crime. I'm just saying that if they are, we probably want to know about it, right? So it seems pretty reasonable for us to put together a third party. It doesn't have to be citizens. You take them from the Middlesex Public Defenders if you wanted to. You know, somebody who's not intimately related to the very system that produces the police, if it does, police brutality. Does that seem reasonable?
Sounds good.
So would you support a citizen review board and empower?
No, I just said no before. I said I'm happy with the way the system is now, for me personally. I mean, anybody else want to comment on it?
Well, I would
They go
have.
under the guidelines of the Attorney General's office, I believe, Captain Milligan, am I correct?
You are, sir.
And, listen, we had a problem in our internal affairs unit, no doubt about it. And we had a problem, and we seem to straighten it out, and now we're back to where we were before, and it seems to be, people aren't happy with it. I'm sure there's nothing.
Well, that's the issue, right? Because I would argue that if people are still unhappy with it, then we have a problem, because there is a constituency.
People aren't happy because they don't get they didn't get the decision that they wanted, but then, and I understand, people don't like cops investigating other cops. I've heard that argument.
Yeah, but we definitely don't like prosecutors investigating.
Well, they have a third-party person at the prosecutor's office that comes in, and they use them as a third-party overseer.
Who's hired by the prosecutor?
What do you mean?
Well, so they're hired by the prosecutor, they're still part of the same system. They have a vested interest in coming back a certain way.
Well, the Brunswick Police is not the same as the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office.
You're right that they're not the same, but they have a very close relationship because they work together on every case. They put together cases. I'm just saying it seems like a pretty reasonable idea to put together a citizen review board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I had one other thing. With regard to the streets needing crosswalks, there's another one by Central and Lewis. I pass it every day. It's dangerous. It just needs to have it rebuilt.
I mean, there's one there, just needs to get repainted up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The ones that we did tonight are going to be new. They're brand new ones that we're doing on Seminary Place. But all the ones that Ms. Moore spoke about that are faded or whatever, we're going to try to get them freshened up before school starts.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Melvin.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Come on, man. Don't act like you don't see me.
I'm writing your name.
No.
You're the next speaker.
Listen, I'm gonna read something.
I got a fact for the day. Well, actually, it wasn't today. Yesterday was the president's birthday, wasn't it?
Obama?
Yeah.
Well, technically, yeah, it's president, yeah. You're president, yeah. Yeah, it's the president's birthday. I'm going to read something from you from a revolutionary that I should be studying more, but I'm not. And your opinion. All right. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride towards freedom is not the white citizens' council or the Ku Klux Klan, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who refers to a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with your goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your method of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the mythical concept of time and constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Now, what do you think that is?
Charles Brown.
Take it there.
Very good Marshall, I don't know. That was Martin Luther King. But it's
Bing!
probably predates that.
It was Martin Luther King. And the reason why I picked that speech is because, sometimes I sit in the back on January, and a lot of people come in here and they push the "I have the dream" speech down your throat. I have a dream, I have a dream. Martin Luther King wrote that speech in 1963, he died in 1968. He made about 450 speeches a year. You know what I mean? He wrote 5 books. So the "I have a dream" was the beginning of his career. But in 1968, it was more of a revolutionary. But compromising blacks won't give you that person that he was because it doesn't fit too good. The "I have a dream" speech is more acceptable. So I'm going to just do research on the last 2 years of Martin Luther King. You'll see a real revolutionary. You won't see the guy that "I have a dream." That's 1963. All right. So I'm going to keep feeding you.
I will.
All right. I first want to start off by mentioning, of course we need a civilian citizen review board. Because I have proof that the internal affairs process, it doesn't work. I was recently given, about a few weeks ago, I was given 4 tickets for no apparent reason. I took the issue to the internal affairs. They found the officer did no wrongdoing whatsoever. They sent me the letter saying, we reviewed the facts. I gave them videotape, I gave them audio, I gave them everything, and they also had the dash cam from the police officer. He did no wrongdoing whatsoever. So I takes the issue to court. I goes to trial, representing myself. I figured me against a police officer, he didn't stand a chance, and he did. So, I got 3 tickets thrown out. I had 4 tickets, 3 tickets thrown out. The only 1 ticket that I was held bound to was the one that the judge refused to look at evidence. He refused to look at the picture that I had that would have me beat the last ticket. So ultimately he said, I'm not going to look at it. Basically, I got to give you something. I'm not going to let you beat an officer with 4 tickets. So I ended up being hit with a ticket. Crazy part is they sent me a court date where I didn't pay the ticket on time. I almost had a warrant. So I had to run and pay the ticket earlier today. So because of the neglect of the internal affairs, I could have been walking down the street, being arrested for a warrant, and then having to go to court and pay a ticket, and then being in the system. Now I'm a part of the system, and I've done nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. The cop felt like, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of police officers who feel like they can get their march on when they see me. Oh, well, I'm going to be the guy that's going to break Tormel Pitt, and I'm unbreakable. But he's seen me. I never had no interactions with him, and he wrote me 4 tickets. And I went through the process of,
So he just wrote you for nothing?
Yeah.
Just walked up, he just started writing tickets?
Well, he asked me about, was my vehicle, he seen a hood up. He seen a hood up in the car, and he asked me, was that my vehicle? If he lied on the stand and everything. It was ridiculous. But ultimately, listen, I beat the 3 tickets without no representation, without no attorney. With that
Right, municipal court?
Yeah, the traffic court. So I'm just saying, I'm stating that fact because I'm telling you that the attorney affairs process doesn't work. It's a shame. And, yeah, of course, if we need something, a third party, then you should be more than happy to do so. Instead of constantly having people come complain to you about the attorney affairs process. Now, everybody complains, but I have a solution. First and foremost, I want to know, do you think that there are good police officers on the police force?
Good ones?
Good ones.
Yes.
Not cool ones, good ones. I'll tell you the difference between a cool officer and a good officer.
I believe it's a good police officer.
A cool officer is an officer that won't write you an unnecessary ticket. A cool officer is an officer that won't beat you up or assault you or violate your rights. But a good officer is an officer that won't tolerate any corruption around him, period, by anybody. Regardless of whether it's in a police report, whether it's on the streets, whether it's in the courtroom, a good officer do not tolerate corruption whatsoever. So, cool officers, they're not good officers because they didn't beat you up or they didn't write you an unnecessary ticket. So you got to start establishing what is a good officer and what is a bad officer. Now, I always come and I complain, right? Because me personally, I don't think there are any good officers on the Brunswick. I think there's cool officers, but I don't think there's good officers. So we got to start differentiating what is a good officer and what is a cool officer and what is a bad officer. 3 different types of officers. All right? Do a little, we'll investigate. We'll go further on that. But I do have a solution. First off, I don't agree with the motorcade when you guys come to the National Night Out. So I think it should be more personal with the community. You know, it's like the president's pulling up, you got all the police surrounding you guys, and you know the community is looking at it and all. That's too much. Tone it down a little bit. Come in there with your shorts on. Get a burger, get a hot dog. You know what I mean? I know how to do it. You know. But I do have a solution. Because, no, seriously, it's ironic that I was just sitting in the back and I got a phone call from a close friend of mine who I was going to bring up when I got to the opportunity to speak. I have a close, dear friend. Her name is Lenora Fulani. She ran for president in 1988. It's crazy that she called me because she must have known I was going to bring her name up there. But she's the first woman, not just black woman, the first woman to get ballots in all 50 states. So she made history in that note. And she ran as an independent. You know, I'm doing a lot of work with her behind the scenes. And, you know, the work that I do outside of the community, what I do is I love to bring it back to the city that I'm from. You know, she invited me out to an event. I got to go out. She invited me out to something else. But she invited me to the Apollo Theater, where she brought 1,000 police officers, and she brought 1,000 community residents, and mixed them all up, and she did a workshop with police and children. 6 police officers, 6 teenagers. And they had a discussion, and it was amazing. It was, I mean, it was amazing. The cops got to say how they feel, because the community don't understand what a police officer goes through. And the police officer got to feel what the community feels, because sometimes the officer doesn't understand it. And I'm talking to her and possibly bringing that workshop to New Brunswick. But the thing is, you have to have the officer. She just got off the phone with me. She said the officers have to be willing to do it. And I'm thinking, if they are good officers, what officer wouldn't want to do that? Will we have a venue, you know, where she actually operates the workshop? And it's not a beat up on a police officer, and it's not a beat up on the community. It's really for you to get an understanding of what, because I've never heard what a police officer goes through. Just her inviting me to that workshop, they mentioned the fact that how many kids up there has single parents. And one police officer raised his hand and said, wait a minute. My mother was a single parent. And I'm like, wow. You know, that never dawned on me that an officer could be suffering the same issues that a regular community resident could. So that struck me as amazing. So, but I wouldn't experience that if she didn't invite me out. But she's willing to come out here. You know, and she's willing to hold the workshop. It's just the fact that the city is willing to do so. I think it'll be beneficial to the city. I think it'll be beneficial as far as the police goes. And it gives the community opportunity. And I won't be fighting power picking that day. I actually sit back and I relax and give the opportunity of the people seeing a different aspect as far as policing goes. And the police seeing a different aspect. I'm not an expert on running a workshop. That's her expertise. But she does an amazing job. I think that might be something that the city would be interested in.
Can she send some paperwork about what she does and everything? Can we send it over to the police and get it over to us and have them take a look at it?
Definitely. I have a fax up to you guys ASAP.
Okay, take a look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Gray. It's just a quick comment / question. I know that you were talking about internal affairs and endorsing, you know, the way it is right now, which is fine. I mean, but my whole issue with it is it feels very closed off, and if they're making the right decisions, what harm is it to add a citizen oversight to what's already there? I just feel like if they're making the right decisions, then the citizens should be able to have a role in it as well. That's all I really have to say.
Very good point.
I just figured it's been interesting just sitting here, you know, after maybe 2 or more years that I've been away. And some of the items that come up, I'd say there are at least a dozen items that I could spend a lot more time just looking at them, discussing them. But I'll limit right tonight to one thing that interests me personally, and that is water. What is the story on water now? I'm a person who has never bought a bottle of water. I see people buying water, 24 bottles at a time, and I see government offices buying water here in the county. What is the story on the water? Is it all right to drink?
Yes, sir.
You're saying that
Yes.
based on what?
We're drinking, I'm drinking it myself right here tonight. He runs with tap water right here, which I'm drinking it. I had 2 glasses of it.
That's
I haven't keeled over yet.
That's what I want to hear.
I'm drinking New Brunswick tap water right now.
Yeah, I believe that we should be able to drink water out of the tap. We shouldn't have to buy bottled water. And I'm glad to hear you say that you are drinking it.
Yeah, we're all drinking it out of the tap. Everybody's drinking out of the tap. Listen, we want nothing but the best for our water and our water quality. Have we had some bumps in the road? Yes, we have. Not gonna sit here and deny the thing. But we're striving every day to make our water department the best it can be. And I know Mr. Lockman works on it continuously. I know all the people that work at the water department work on it continuously, whether it's fixing water mains, whether it's working at the filtration plant. You know, we're trying to do the right thing for everybody, because we always had a very, very, very good water department, you know, over the years. And we maintained all our employees at the water department. No one's been laid off, which I think is great, because, you know, I've known a lot of people that work at the water department. And we're trying to do the right thing for our water department and for the citizens of New Brunswick regarding water quality.
Is the city buying any bottled water now?
We buying bottled water?
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge. No, sir, not to my knowledge. I mean, some employees might be coming in with their own bottled water.
Right.
We certainly don't have Poland Spring, I don't think, comes up here with a truck and delivers water to the building like you see in other buildings.
No, I know the county is buying.
They have a lot more money.
I don't think so.
I'm only kidding, but we do not do that in the city here. We are drinking New Brunswick tap water as we speak.
Yeah, some of the other things that I have listened to tonight, I'll get around here as time
All
goes
right, well, we
by.
welcome you back anytime you want to come back.
Thank you.
We're here the first and third of every month. Try to deal. I'm sorry, the first and third Wednesday of every month.
Don't forget to remember me when you have food and
Absolutely, we'll send it right over. New Brunswick Today is catering our next council meeting. Anybody else from the public wish to speak this evening? Anybody else?
I just want to address something, if it's possible, based on what Mr. Pittman was saying. I think it's a good idea. And I think that we have been doing, the Brunswick Police has been doing that to a certain extent. Because they do come out over the summer. There is a soccer camp that is named after Lieutenant Bobadilla. And for years, officers come on their own time, they bring water, they interact with the kids, they're there. And they also go to other summer programs, so the police is already doing that. That's another extra step. But I just want to would be remiss not mentioning that officers are already doing that job with the community.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar.
Yes.
Council Vice President Fleming.
Yes.
Councilmember Garlotti.
Aye.
Council President Egan.
Yes.